you guys. First, we went over to my second favorite island, you know, and over for the vineyard for this project. And I don't know about you, but I fell in love with the vineyard. I really think the people over there are very much like us. They have similar issues. We talk about getting on boats. We live on schedules of the expense of boat rides. And I think the kids over there really love it when they have people from Nantucket go over and visit and vice versa. You see, it's not all about football. It's also about sustainability. And we're been able to sustain that football tradition, which will be nice as well. But with that, you know, and I see Michelle's here, and she was doing a presentation to the Pulpus Association the other night. And, you know, we really have gotten away years ago from being sustainable here on Nantucket, and probably throughout New England. But, you know, we used to be able to subside right with what we have here on the island. And I think we're seeing that we cannot get back to a day where we can live off the island, but we can certainly live more enjoyably off the wonderful things that the island has to offer. Larry Perkins is here, and else there he is, moved to the front row. And, you know, we think about agriculture, I do, and the two islands share those things. And I bring up the vineyard only because the gentlemen were over on the vineyard recently, and we have Mary Ann, I thought she was here somewhere, from the vineyard over here as well. And the aquafarming is something that we've really worked on hard at the State House to make available. We have a brewery and a winery and a distillery here, which I know you guys will be interested in about 3 or 4 years from now. Right. But now you can have wines available at farmers markets, and the idea was that, you know, once again, it's a local product, and you can make it available, and it helps bring people to a farmer's market. So you have really the whole thing going. And then we've got the wind turbine out at the high school, and I have to say, my wife and I were huge fans of Jack McFarland. We knew him for many years, and it was just so touching and fitting that when we go by there, and my wife said the other day, because I can't tell you how happy I am that they named and dedicated the wind turbine to them. But I know you gentlemen have had a lot to do with it, and I appreciate it because you're the future. When I was your age, we weren't thinking about this on Nantucket, and we should have been, because we'd be even further ahead. But now we are, and you guys can help us take us to the next step, because I know once you're finished with your education, you're going to come back here, because there's no place better to do it. So with that, Sherry's going to take it over now, and she's got something from the senator for you.
Sure. And first, I just want to say I'm very happy to be here on behalf of Senator Kerry. He often invokes President Kennedy's call to go to the moon here on Earth when we're talking about climate change and our energy security. And I think that he's very excited that young people have such bold visions and kind of carry on that call to go to the moon here on Earth. So I have citations on behalf of him. We'll just read them aloud for you. 112th Congress and the Honorable John F. Kerry from Massachusetts recognizes Alex Perkins and Will Horn, August 11th, 2011. I am proud to congratulate Alex Perkins and Will Horn for their nomination to serve as the Nantucket Youth Delegate to the Stone Soup Leadership Institute's 7th Annual Youth Leadership Summit for Sustainable Development. Alex's passion for the environment, Alex and Will's passion for the environment have empowered their peers and their entire community to make positive changes in their daily lives. I commend Alex and Will on being inspiring young leaders who are willing to confront and to solve some of the most difficult and perplexing problems that our world faces.
Thank you very much. We went to the vineyard in late June, and we went to the summit, and we were inspired, and we wanted to come back here and make a presentation, and just because, you know, we were so interested in this, and so we're just trying to raise awareness and get some ideas out. So I guess we'll kick it off.
This presentation on sustainability, we're going to kind of touch on a lot of different ways of sustainability, but one, sustainability can be defined as defendable, maintainable, justifiable, and supportive. And so we're going to touch.
Yeah, well, throughout the presentation, we're going to be talking about carbon emissions and carbon footprints. And so, just if anyone doesn't know, some negative effects of carbon or CO2 are stress on plants and animals, melting the polar caps, acid rain, and just honestly the deterioration of our planet. So, we're going to try and avoid all that if we can and reduce that.
So as Will said, the Stone Soup Leadership Institute's summit on the Vineyard last June was about sustainable development and more particularly small island sustainability. And so we were delegates representing the island of Nantucket, and there were delegates from islands all over the world, including Hawaii, Vieques, in Puerto Rico, Virgin Gorda, as well as California, and of course the Vineyard. And so one of the main themes in the summit was to answer the question, what is your dream for your life, your island, and your world? And so it really is a tough question to answer, because once you actually sit down and try to answer that question, you know, it's a hard thing. You know, it's a big question, and so that's one of the things we did that week.
It forces you to gain a new perspective on what you want to do with your life. So, and throughout this presentation, we want you guys to have in the back of your mind, what is your dream for this island, for your life, and for the world. So, and as Alex was saying,
these are the delegates from all the different places around the world, and this is a picture of us in front of the historic windmill on the Vineyard.
And as Alex said, it was there was a focus on small island sustainability, and we're well aware that California is not an island, but we included that because Anthony Chavez's grandson, Cesar Chavez's grandson, Anthony Chavez, from California, was at the summit, and that was a great honor and pleasure. So, just so you're not thinking like, whoa, hello there. So we're going to talk about some stuff we've done on the Vineyard while we're there, and then we'll segue into some Nantucket sustainability. So on the Vineyard, we looked at some co-housing. It's this really interesting complex where it was all these houses together and people living in a small, tight-knit community, and there was all these sustainable aspects to it. The parking, there was no cars allowed in between the houses. It was all walking and paths. The parking was in an isolated parking lot off to the side. There was a community garden, a community pond. This built community bonds, fostered local growing through the garden, stimulated sustainable living. There were solar panels, photovoltaics, as well as it provided a positive living example for anyone else to see. The governor of Massachusetts actually went and visited this area not long ago. So, you know, it's a great place, it's getting out, and as I just said, it's a great example for others.
It really forced people to live as sustainable as possible year-round, 24/7. So it's really an interesting and unique experience. So we checked out some high-performance housing, and high-performance housing are houses built as sustainable as possible. Solar panels as a source of alternative energy. The housing materials are built with renewable materials. There's a garden for food.
High-efficiency appliances, water conservation, insulation. This is an example of one behind us. As you can see, the solar panels on the roof. It was a great example because, you know, sometimes they can generate more energy than they need, because not only are they making their own energy through the photovoltaics, but they're also using less energy than most people because of their low energy appliances. And so to be able to generate more energy than you're using is such an amazing thing. And not to say that we don't have any of like solar panels or anything on Nantucket, but I'd like to see more. I'm sure Alex feels the same way, so that was a great example. On the Vineyard, they're great about farming. They've got a farm institute which invites youth and community to come and participate in fostering youth and community involvement. They have over 40 farms on NV, a thriving farm-to-school program where they grow their own food and provide it to the schools. An Island Grown Initiative, which is establishing in the near future a local butchery on NV, which is a unique thing that's useful because this way the farmers don't have to take all their cattle and stuff off island, drive it up to New Hampshire and have it slaughtered and then sent back. That's a waste that produces CO2, that's a waste of energy, gas, money, and time. So that's a great thing. And they also have a portable and local chicken processor, which is basically a cart on wheels, which they push around from farm to farm, and it processes chickens, enough said. And so that's a really cool thing that I don't believe we have here, and I'm not saying that we need one, like we need chicken processors now, but it's just a great example of how they're doing some good things over there.
So as you can see, these are all of the delegates again. Our motto for the week was "Si se puede," which was Cesar Chavez's motto during his grape boycotting campaign, which basically means, yes, we can, yes, it can be done. And so here we are, just a bunch of youth, kids trying to get what we love accomplished.
So this is a very interesting slide. This is a map of the vineyard, as you can see, except it's more than that. It's on this map. There's a key here. It's hard to read, but it's all the sustainably related areas on the vineyard are labeled here. They call it their sustainable vineyard map. They've got conservation land. All the farms are labeled. Walking paths, biking paths. The VTA, or the vineyard transportation, for us would be NERDA, the bus route, so you know. Farms, as I said, cultural sites and events, and so it's a really great thing that tourists can see and locals can see and know how to be sustainable on the vineyard.
It's actually kind of interesting though, because this map is a result of youth looking for ways in which they could voice their concerns with the community. So a couple of years ago, when the vineyard was making their island's plan for the next 50 years, they didn't ask any of the youth what they wanted to see on their island. Meanwhile, they would be the ones living there for the next decades to come. And so what the youth on the vineyard did is made this map and said, this is what we have now, and we want it totally amped up and made as sustainable as possible.
Yeah,
and we want to show this to everyone.
And this is basically saying we want to be heard and we have good contributions to make. And so we want to have a map like this for Nantucket. And I know Sustainable Nantucket has a Find Our Farms map, which we have in a later slide, which has the farms labeled on it. And that's great, but we'd like to have a very detailed one like this that maybe we could put on brochures, airport, steamship, highline. So
that not only showed farms, but eco-tourism,
bike paths, just like this does. So that's a new development that we'd like to see. This is a picture of us trying to improve the current map that they have. That's Sydney Morris. There's some really good-looking kid down there. I'm not sure who that is. Looks familiar. And so this is just a picture of us trying to collaborate together. Speaking of collaboration,
one story I like to tell is the man named Josue Cruz, who was a delegate from Vieques. Vieques is an island. It's very poor, so it relies a lot of its income on tourism, and so the tourism sector is kind of crippled in a sense because the transportation industry, the boats, it only has one door for cars, so the cars will come on. And then it takes a real long amount of time because they have to come on and then back off and park and do all of this stuff. And so basically when he came to Michael's Vineyard and saw this boat that had two doors, he's like, wow, that's so simple. Why don't we just have one in Vieques that you just drive on and then drive off and there's no backing up and waiting and all of that stuff. So.
And so it's just a good example of how we can learn from each other, and there's really simple improvements that can be made because the one door thing, it's a waste of energy and time and more CO2 emissions. We don't like those. So, yeah, next slide. So now we're going to segue into our island, some sustainable ideas and things that are going on here. So, green community. It is possible to make your town or municipality federally designated green community. You have to adhere to 5 criteria. And you get there are some possible rewards for doing this. So here are the criteria that we would have. This is very oversimplified, but here's the core, the gist of the criteria that we would have to achieve to make Nantucket a green community. We have to implement alternative energy source or research facility. We have that with the turbines and photovoltaics. Approval for the above plan has to be approved within 1 year, so we have that. This one's a bit more tedious. We have to assess and reduce the municipal energy consumption by 20% within 5 years. So all the energy consumption of the municipal town buildings would have to be assessed and then reduced by 1/5 in 5 years. The town would have to purchase primarily fuel-efficient vehicles with certain exceptions, fire trucks, ambulances, etc. And the 5th one is we have to minimize life cycle costs of new construction, meaning that all residential or commercial buildings over 3,000 square feet would have to have minimized life cycle costs, meaning efficient appliances, water conservation, and stuff like that to be as sustainable as possible.
Now the town of Tisbury actually voted recently to make their community a green community, so they're in the process of gathering all of these criteria together so that they can achieve that.
So NV's on the right path and we want to follow them in that. And we really want to see this happen, and it can happen. So here are some benefits for being a green community. Possible federal and state bonuses and grant money That's great. Substantial monetary savings. The new, efficient housing and building and efficient vehicles would save gas, energy, money on all that, and reduce CO2 emissions once again. It would reduce the negative impact on the environment, and kind of an obvious but important thing is that it would contribute to unity and collaboration towards a clean world. Now, we all know that and we all say that, we want a clean world, but it's easier said than done, and it's so important to work together and to learn from each other. And so being a green community would enable us to be a role model for other communities. So that's something we want to achieve. You want to get?
Yeah, I mean, an obvious way to be more sustainable is with alternative energy, and Nantucket High School is already down that path with a wind turbine that's projected to save 20 to 30% off its electricity bill, just like that. There are so many other ideas out there, tidal turbines, photovoltaics, and all of that will reduce our dependence on foreign oil, so then now that we'll be more sustainable, the economy is improving and all of that. But right now, National Grid is actually limiting Nantucket's alternative energy output to 780 kilowatts. Now the turbine at the high school is 100 kilowatts, so that's actually too close. Other towns in Massachusetts are 10,000 kilowatts. So
This is something that we need to work on, because this completely inhibits future projects for alternative energies that we want to implement and see happen. So that's something that I didn't know until recently, and maybe some of you didn't know, and that's important. So we're going to try and get that worked out, I guess. So obviously another way to be sustainable is energy efficiency, low consumption bulbs, high efficiency appliances. Effective insulation is huge. Insulation, heating and cooling account for 50 to 70% of the energy used in an average household. That's huge. If you could make your efficiency double from maybe 60% efficiency, or not double, but go up to like 80 or 90, you're saving so much money. It's an investment. It's huge. It's great for the environment. There's some nice statistics that if you didn't know, it's just some interesting stuff. Low consumption bulb can save you $16 a year, as well as 50 kilograms of CO2 per bulb. So, if you've got 15 bulbs in your house, that's $240 a year, not to mention how many bulbs your neighbors have and everyone else in the community, the nation, the world. So if everyone had low consumption bulbs, it would just be such a huge difference, and they're not extremely expensive or anything. They're great. So simple stuff can be done and needs to be done. Next slide.
So one other way besides alternative energy and energy efficiency to move towards a sustainable future is with smart grid technology. This is a new technology that students from the Western Polytechnic Institute actually came down to study for this. And they basically assessed the feasibility of whether it was possible to implement this new technology on Nantucket. And so smart grid technology is basically a net metering system in your home where it monitors all of your electricity and appliances and utilizes them not during the peak demand hours. So it'll actually say turn on your dishwasher at night because peak demand is during the middle of the day. So electricity is actually more expensive during the day than at night. So it's a nice way to save money and reduce that peak demand. And maximize your energy consumption. So this is kind of a random but important slide that we threw in because, so HVAC stands for heat, ventilation, and air conditioning, as you can see. And currently the town is in the process of assessing certain boiler systems in certain town buildings and seeing if, and doing an efficiency test to see how efficient it is, and then deciding if it needs to be upgraded. Because if there's a boiler that's 50% efficiency and we get upgraded to a 90% efficiency one, think of how much money that would save, and it's such a simple thing. Alex and I were actually lucky enough to be recruited onto the committee, and so to do this. So we're going to town buildings and looking at the boilers and assessing them and the efficiency. And it, as I said, it's so simple. It's such common sense. Lauren Sinatra is here. She is the head of this committee. She recruited us. Great person. Thank you for coming, Lauren. And it's a great thing. Upgrading an HVAC system can yield to a 30% tax credit. Great benefits for just being sustainable and logical. Yeah, so Sustainable Nantucket are doing a great job here on the island. They have a lot of projects that they're doing to make Nantucket more sustainable. One thing that we like to point out is there's the lack of the local butchery on Nantucket, like this vineyard, and so there are many ways that you can be sustainable in the agricultural sector.
Yeah,
You want to elaborate?
yeah, soil conservation, maximize water usage, utilizing gray water to irrigate crops may reduce wasted water. I believe gray water is water that runs down the drain, so it's not straight out of the faucet, but a lot of it is still usable. So that's just a ton of wasted water. And so if you want to go to the next slide, we'll elaborate on Sustainable Nantucket. Sustainable Nantucket is an organization on the island. Michelle Whalen is here. Thank you for coming, Michelle. She's the head of Sustainable Nantucket, and they're doing great things on the island. They're very supportive of gleaning. For those of you who don't know, gleaning is a process where after the harvest is taken, there's lots of extra crops that are wasted because they're not 100% prime, and so they get thrown away or whatever. And so gleaning is letting the public come and take those crops if they want them for free. So people who need food can get food. It saves wasted crops, and they can be used for other beneficial purposes. So a community farm is also in the works thanks to Sustainable Nantucket. There's a lot of details about it. I'm sure Michelle would love to elaborate afterward. But that's a very interesting idea that I'd love to see happen. Internships, they've been involved. I think they had 7 interns with farms around the island, Moore's End, Pumpkin Pond, Bartlett. So there's a farmers and artisans market, which has grown from like 6 farmers to like 65 or something, and they do it twice a week now, I think. So
65 vendors.
65 vendors.
65
Oh, I see. Okay, great. Yeah, so that's a great thing. They have a Nantucket grown publication. That's the name of it. It's got all this information about sustainability and what's going on in Nantucket. That's a great thing. And they also are implementing a school garden. And just to touch on these pictures here, this is the thing I was talking about earlier, the Find Our Farms map that they have. Here you can see the farms are labeled with a key and some other information down here. And here is a brand that they have on stickers now, I believe, that in the near future will be put on products that are grown locally here. So you know when you're in the store that you're buying something grown locally. So you just look for that. So that's awesome. And you can talk about the school
this
garden.
is a map of the Find the School Garden that they're proposing. This is right behind the playground at the elementary school, and there's so much to it, and it's really great to see students can see the fireroom while they're out on recess or whatever. And hopefully there'll be a lot of student integration too, so that they can go into the fireroom and use it at lunches and etc. So
yeah, so that's in the works. So we just have a little slide on sustainable business. Green pages, we're just going to touch on this real quick. In the phone book, there's some pages that are literally green. They're very interesting. I didn't know about it until like 2 weeks ago or something. They have all this information on being green and sustainability, definitions of certain terms, and they also have listed green businesses, sustainable businesses such as green building, green cleaning, all kinds of stuff. So you guys should check it out, really interesting. The next thing we'll touch on is fees and benefits. It's just the idea that you have incentive to be more sustainable. So for example, if you wanted to throw away a fridge or something, you have to pay, or a car, I believe you have to pay if you take it to the dump. So this would mean that a portion of that money or all of it would go towards sustainable initiatives. Or if you decide to recycle your car or your fridge or your house or whatever, you get money, you get a tax write-off or something for that. So we think that would stimulate and foster sustainability.
in the business field, there's more to sustainability than just benefiting the ecology or environment around it. There's also equity and economy, good business practices, good employee and customer satisfaction, as well as being profitable is good for the business. And also economic reinfusion, meaning that businesses would actually give back to the community around them, because without the community, they obviously wouldn't be around. Mm-hmm. So these are all good sustainable business practices.
And specifically towards green initiatives. But giving back anyways is great, regardless. So, investing in sustainable business. There are more benefits than simply saving energy and money. Improved employee productivity, reduced operational maintenance costs, increased customer comfort, increased asset value, enhanced public image, and improved quality of life. So this is just showing that there's so much more than just saving energy and money, which of course are extremely important, but there's all these other positive things that not only are positive themselves, but in turn lead to other positive changes. So that's just a great thing to get everyone on the same page with that. And so now we have a slide on sustainable housing. On the vineyard, we had a man named Ben Kelly. He's an architect, that's a green architect. He spoke to us during the summit on the vineyard, and I got a lot of facts from him. And it's very interesting. I love this. Is probably my favorite slide because I like numbers and stuff, and it's a lot of numbers. So buildings account for 42% of the nation's energy consumption. That's huge. That's almost half, and that's why sustainable housing is such an investment. The minimal initial expense is 7% greater than typical housing on average, meaning that if you were buying a house that was normally would be $700,000, it'd be $770,000 now. To make it sustainable, but that is a huge investment. It simply will be priceless in the long run. It's reduced maintenance costs, it's reduced impacts on the environment, you're saving energy on heat and cooling loss, energy, water price, everything. So sustainable houses consume 80% less energy than typical houses, if we can define typical. Saves money long term, as I said, reduces carbon footprint. Here's an interesting one. 2/3 of the US economy is consumerism. Efficient housing saves money, thus catalyzing the increase in consumerism, jobs, and the strength of the economy. It's necessary as a role model for others, just like the co-housing we were talking about earlier. And there are sustainable builders on Nantucket, as there obviously are on the vineyard as well. Check out the green pages in the phone book. They've got them listed.
It's actually interesting because a country in Europe, I actually can't remember off the top of my head which one, they actually mandate that all houses be made with the newest technology to make them as efficient as possible. It's a law not to build your house sustainably, because they honestly felt that it's stupid not to.
It's just such common sense to do so, and so that's a cool thing.
So this is just really interesting because people, will go around the way, you'll save a ton of CO2 out of the atmosphere, but no one really knows how much it is. So this cube actually shows you what a ton of CO2 is. You can see all the people on the bottom, and that's huge. And if the average household in the U.S. produces 5 tons of CO2 annually, that's, it's a lot of cubes stacked up. That's a lot of CO2.
So community involvement. That's part of our presentation, as we said, is to raise awareness and get everyone involved, so especially the community and the youth. So we told you the idea of a Green Nantucket Day or week, where there's cleanup teams and there's activities and games and green shirts and recycling and all that good stuff. And we want to increase the number of scholarships that are tailored toward green, or students who are interested in pursuing sustainable careers or going to college for that. More internships. We want to abide by the reduce, renew, recycle policy, which is self-explanatory. And collaboration, with each other is huge. Unity towards a positive goal, working together, getting everyone on the same page, and working toward, the same goal of having a green community of Nantucket, a role model for the world, the nation, the communities around us. So, community involvement and collaboration is huge.
So also education through the school. We would love to see as many students involved in this process as possible. We'd like to see somewhat of a sustainable curriculum in the school. I know there's an environmental and marine science class that's coming next year, which is good. And maybe integrate internships or the school to career program, so that we could have students working with people in the town to get involved early in this kind of stuff. And there's this really inspirational book called Cradle to Cradle, which maybe have it as summer reading or somewhat required reading in that environmental class. There's a lot of ideas out here that we need to start getting involved in.
Offer incentives for youth to support sustainability. I believe that all students entering the high school now have a certain number of community service hours that they have to fulfill, and so maybe it'd be nice if they needed to dedicate some of those hours to sustainable initiatives or activities. I think that's a pretty cool idea, and so you can go to the next slide. And so here's another idea we were toying with. So we currently have in place a group called Students for Sustainability, which is the high school sustainable youth group. But all the current members are seniors, including myself and Alex, and so we're all graduating, and Emma also, who is in the back there. She's graduating as well. And so we want to not only get more youth involved, the younger youth, but also we have this idea that because Alex told you earlier that the Vineyard made that 50-year plan and they didn't ask the youth what they wanted, well, we want to make sure nothing like that happens on Nantucket. So we were thinking that 2 members of Students for Sustainability, elected by vote, would attend meetings or conferences with town officials or third-party participants and represent Students for Sustainability. This would give the youth a voice specifically towards sustainable initiatives and ideas, because there are youth getting out there and meeting with town officials and getting involved. But I think that to have a council specifically for sustainable initiatives and ideas would be particularly important. So there's a picture of some youth when the wind turbine was getting put up.
So this is a Google Earth image of Martha's Vineyard. You can see this thumbtack, Vieques and Virgin Gorda. Now with all these islands, there are youth leadership initiatives in place. And we would like to see many, many more thumbtacks. We'd love to be able to work with students from all over, being able to work with them on their island, seeing what they're doing and talking with them and collaborating with them, because by sharing ideas, that's the real way that we can live as sustainable as possible.
Mm-hmm. So ways to get involved. You can sign up tonight to be available to support us and Students for Sustainability in any way, shape, or form. You can just be environmentally conscious every day in every aspect of your life. Pick up trash, don't litter, watch your energy conservation. We have some interesting stats on how you can save water just by turning off your water when you brush your teeth, or wash your hands, or use faucet aerators, which conserve water and limit the amount of water. Spread knowledge and raise awareness about the fragility of the environment. Participate in cleanup teams and green-related activities, and support local sustainable initiatives and businesses. No one wants to be stuck out there and not have any support. So you guys can help in a lot of ways. And future.
We would love to expand the Students for Sustainability, get as many students as involved and as passionate about this as possible. Spread focus and awareness about the environment throughout the school, not only the school but the community too, because this is going to be a community-wide effort. It's going to take all of Nantucket, not just one group of people. Obviously, in the long run, but not too long, we'd love to make Nantucket a green community. I think that's definitely possible. Sustainable business practices consistently in an increasing fashion, have operational, effective, sustainable youth council. And then one other thing that we would love is to make an island plan for Nantucket for the next 5, 10, 20 years to kind of direct where we want Nantucket to go and then execute that.
Yeah, and set goals to be achieved. And as we said throughout, more youth involvement. As Mr. Madden said, we are the future, and the more kids we get involved, the more upstream we go, the better in that respect. So, if you want to go to the next slide. Thank you very much for your time and support. We really appreciate you guys coming. We know August is busy, you guys all have schedules, and we just hope that you took something away from this and can give us some good feedback on how we can improve, and we'll spread awareness and just be as sustainable as possible. So thank you guys very much.